Today I'm making the first recipe in healthy bread in 5 minutes a day made with fresh milled flour. Welcome to White Shadow Fare. Make it homemade and make it with love. Right, this book is a wonderful resource if you're into making bread and you have busy nights. Healthy Bread in 5 Minutes a Day by Jeff Hertzberg and Zoe Francois. And there are many different types of things that you can make from these breads. Today I'm making just the master recipe that they call for because it's the first one that they want you to start with. And then you can turn this into pizza, into rolls. You can make cinnamon bread. You will need a scale. Make sure that it is on grams. And you are going to measure out 720 grams of fresh milled flour. I chose to use 50% hard red wheat and 50% hard white wheat, but just make sure that it is a hard wheat that has gluten forming abilities. And then you are going to add to this 270 grams of all-purpose flour. Now this is their master recipe. I'm just making it the way that they call for. They do have one that is 100% fresh milled flour, but I thought I would start by using what they consider their master recipe. This master recipe calls for 270 grams of an all-purpose unbleached flour. And I know that I'm trying not to use all-purpose flour, but I'm trying to follow their recipe to a T. They're also going to call for 35 grams of vital wheat gluten, and vital wheat gluten just adds the gluten that is found in wheat that has been dehydrated and powdered. There is no starch here. It improves the rise, the elasticity of the dough, and the chewiness of the dough. So if you've never used vital wheat gluten before, I highly recommend it. $15 grams of salt. I'm using Redmond's real salt here, but any kind of salt will work. 15 grams of yeast. Now, even though that's a very small amount of yeast for this amount of flour, it will be able to do its magic. Blend your dry ingredients. You're really supposed to do everything in one bowl, but I got a little bit lazy here, I have to be honest, and so I did pull out my mixer. Most people would probably say, hey, I'm just going to mix it. It doesn't take that long, but I don't know. I just wasn't feeling it while I made this recipe. Measure out 900 grams of water and make sure that that is a room temperature lukewarm water. I really should have just mixed it by hand right in the container. I poured the measured out water right into my mixer because I was feeling lazy. Add your dry ingredients. Once again, they suggest just mixing it right in the bowl that you are working with, but this was me being lazy. Mix it until everything is incorporated. I'm not kneading the dough at all. But really, this just takes maybe 30 seconds, and it really wouldn't have taken me much by hand. It might be really wet looking, it might be really dry looking, don't worry about it. You're going to put this into a container that has a lid that you can put on loosely. Place the container on the counter with the lid on, not airtight, for 2 hours. After 2 hours, move your container to the refrigerator. This is what it looks like in the morning. Now your dough is obviously going to be quite firm because it has been in the refrigerator. And you can see that there are strands of gluten forming there. And that is the magic of this no knead bread. It is a fantastic recipe that you can use to make breads, rolls, cinnamon rolls. I used it to make pizza. You didn't have to knead it. You can make many different things with it, and you have 2 weeks to use it all, which is not difficult since it's only giving you 4 1-pound portions. All right, so on the day that I decide to use it, I'm going to use either scissors or a serrated edge knife, take it out of the refrigerator and cut about 1/4 of the dough. And you can see me doing that. And then if it feels sticky, go ahead and put a little bit of water on your hands, but I didn't need any of that. Here I am just taking out that piece, and then the other 3 portions are going to go right back into the refrigerator to be used at a later date. This is really perfect for those busy days when you don't have time to do the full kneading of dough and everything. It's already done partially for you, and you can have hot bread with dinner. Go ahead and shape this the way that you want. I'm going to be putting this in kind of a round boule shape, and it's easy to do with the cold dough. I'm going to place it on parchment paper, and that parchment paper is just going to keep it from sticking and make it easy for me to move around. I'm going to cover it and let it rest for at least 1 hour. So 1 hour to 1.5 hours of resting time is all that is needed, and then it is going to go into a preheated 450-degree oven. Now here I have a Dutch oven that I'm going to place the parchment paper with the dough on it. That was in my oven while it was preheating, so it is nice and hot. I sprayed it with a little bit of water. I'm adding some sesame seeds, and I am going to score my loaf. This will bake for approximately 30 minutes until the internal temperature is about 205 to 210 degrees. This book contains many no knead recipes that make 4 recipes at a time so that you can have bread partially made ahead of time for the next 2 weeks. You should really check this book out. See if they have it at your local library. That's where I got it to begin with, and then I found a copy online. So we've got things like whole grain breads, the master recipe, flatbreads, pizza, rolls, emmer bread, buckwheat bread, brown rice bread, tabbouleh bread with parsley, garlic, and bulgur. So many great recipes. You can make herb breads, rolls, pastries, breakfast breads. This is a great book. You should check it out. I think you would really enjoy this. Anyway, here's my bread fresh out of the oven. Now, you don't want to slice into something that is burning hot, so you need to give it time to cool down, although we did eat it warm for dinner. If you slice it when it's hot, the bread will be gummy on the inside. You don't want that, so I waited at least 20 minutes before slicing it. It was still warm. The butter melted into it. It was a beautiful loaf of bread. Once again, healthy bread and 5 minutes a day. That's a look at what the cover looks like in case you want to check that book out. And here you can see how nice it slices up. Now, since there is no honey or anything in this, this is a much more weedy tasting bread than many of the other breads that I have made in the past. But it was a nice change of pace, and I will definitely be making more from this book soon. From this one recipe I made here, I made this boule, I made some rolls, and I made 2 pizzas. Delicious. If you haven't tried no knead bread before, it is definitely worth looking into. I hope you will give this one a try. Thank you for joining me at White Shadow Fare.